We're at item 3, consent agenda. Anything in the consent agenda that anyone wishes to have brought out separately?
I'd like to pull the employment matters. I just have a brief question.
I'll second for employment. You need a motion.
Thank you.
Anything else? Actually, it's just a question. We just ask the question and I won't hold it with maps.
Okay. I will draw the motion. Do we need a motion first?
Yes, a motion for consent agenda. And a second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
My question was, in the employment memorandum that we were provided, I'm sorry, it closed on me, so. I believe starting on page 3, it was discussing, sorry, get to it.
Extended learning school program?
One after that, Gallup program that we're going through. Page 5.
Page 5?
Page 5, yes.
Okay, that actually is something we've done for years. It's part of our hiring process is a screener that we have all of our teachers and our support staff go through, and it's an online questionnaire, and it provides us with some insight about dispositional types of attributes that employees have, and so we use that as our first screen, so it's extremely helpful for us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate the clarification.
Any other questions? All right. That being said, all those in favor of consent agenda state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is superintendent's report.
Okay, I have a few agenda items. The first is seclusion and restraint report. Annually, we provide that to the board, and Ted is actually here to just summarize it.
I am.
Thank you, Ted.
You're welcome. Good evening. So, August of 2012, as you guys probably remember, DPI put a directive, Act 125, that all districts in Wisconsin had to generate or develop a board policy relative to the use of seclusion and restraint. And within that, we had to define the conditions when it was appropriate to use seclusion and restraint, prove that we had at least one person in each of our school buildings who was trained in the appropriate use of seclusion and restraint, outline those training requirements, and then it defines some documentation. And so part of that is an annual report that I do to all of you relative to our use of seclusion and restraint in the district. And so we're asked to report on 3 specific areas. The first are the total number of incidences of seclusion and restraint that occurred in the previous school year. The second part are the total number of students that were involved in seclusion and restraint, and the third is the total number of special education students that were involved. And so if you have your memo in front of you, you can see that this past year we had a total of 14 incidences of seclusion and restraint, which involved 6 students, and of those students, all 6 were students with disabilities. What was a real celebration, frankly, is that this is quite a significant decrease from the previous year. So the year prior, we had 44 incidences of seclusion and restraint. And as I was thinking about, why that difference occurred, certainly some of it can be, 1 or 2 or 3 students who are particularly needy can drive that number up. But there have been a number of really specific things we've done as a district as well to try to address that. So any student with an IEP who has behavioral needs and where there's a possibility for the need of seclusion or restraint, we have that written into their IEP. And Kari, I think, has done a very good job of helping our special ed teachers write plans that are more specific to make sure that those students' needs are met and that we're handling those situations before they get out of control. we have ongoing training for staff. So I said that we have to have, legally, we just have to have one person per school trained. We have almost 175 trained across the district. So we're doing a great job with that. And we have rotating training, every special ed teacher, all school psychologists, every special ed aide. They're on a 3-year rotating cycle. In addition, most of our principals, particularly at the elementary level, but I'm not sure about our middle school principals, but principals are involved. A lot of regular education teachers have also had training. So we have had a lot of people, a lot of buy-in in the importance of specialized training in this. And so that's been a big deal as well. And then finally, last year we really focused on writing, they're called FBAs, which are functional behavioral assessments, and BIPs, which is the behavioral, the plan part. And so we really tried to focus on helping special ed teachers zero in on how to write a really good plan to address behavior. So I'm hopeful that this is a trend that will continue, but that's my report.
Well, thank you for your leadership in that area.
Yeah, no problem.
I've got a question. Ted, so 6 are the others here, does that mean that they were secluded, that there's seclusion and physical restraint?
It's one or the other.
Okay, so we don't separate which one.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then all of these were students who were on or this was identified on their IEP?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Appreciate
Have a great
it.
night.
Thank you very much. Just real quick, we did as a district receive our advanced placement scores as a district. Individual students should be able to access that information online and have their individual reports. And we will have, this will be part of our school performance report that will come to the board in October. But I just did want to share just a couple highlights. Since 2010, we've increased the number of AP students by 48%. So in 2010, we had 265 AP students, and this year we have 393. Even more significantly, we've increased the number of exams that students, AP exams taken by 66% over the last 4 years. So we had 395 exams taken in 2010, and we're up to our record for Mnsd Norway at 656. So excellent for our system, and you might be wondering, well, how has that impacted our number of students, or the percentage of students getting a 3 or higher, the success on it. It did have a bit of a dip, but only by about 5%. So we still have a significant number of students demonstrating success, even with growing at 66% more exams taken. So great news for our system and for our AP teachers. The third item is actually an update on our summer school, and we have our summer school principals here to provide some input for you. So if you want to come on up, and I'll get this for you. Okay, we have a little PowerPoint for you to give you an update. This, as noted in the little public content, this has been a concerted effort for the district to increase summer school learning. For our system, it really ties very nicely with our academics literacy student goal, so that it will positively impact students when they start the school year, so we don't see that summer slide as much. So thank you again for your leadership. Sarah Stanley is our AP at Baleen, and Ken Dunbar is our AP at Muskego High School. And John McEwing is also supports this effort, and he's the AP at Lake Dunoon. So thank you.
All right. So we are serving this summer about 740 kindergarten through 8th grade students in both academic and enrichment courses. Last year, just for a point of comparison, we served about 390 students. When you put it in terms of seat time, how many kids are actually sitting in a class, last year we had On the second day of summer school, we had 850 seats filled. And this year, we have 2,140. One of the reasons we've grown so much is because we've added a lot of fun enrichment courses. With the idea of trying to take away the stigma that summer school is for those kids that are always struggling and just really want to make it an enriching and fun experience for everyone. We have bus shuttles transporting over 100 students to and from Lakeview and Lake Danoon. And just to kind of show you a quick glance of some of the new offerings that we have this year. Some fitness classes, Summer Games Galore, Fitness Fever, Get Up, Get Moving, Get Fit. We have a class called Fashion Merchandising. We're doing Reader's Theater, Keyboard Camp. Math and Science and Sports. Chess is extremely popular. We have 4 total sections of chess. One of them has 35 students signed up. We have Eco Art, Reduce, Reuse, Recycle, another extremely popular class for the kids. Cheerleading Camp and Cheer 101, Exploring Technology and Engineering, Lego Level 1 We Do, and Lego Mindstorms Advanced. In the past, we've offered Lego Mindstorms for, I believe it was like 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. This year, we're offering Lego courses from kindergarten through 8th grade. Some of the other classes that we have that I didn't get snapshots of, some interesting, unique ones, etiquette for kids, from, the right stuff for older students that just love to write, and that's it. Any questions about the K-8?
What is etiquette for kids?
Etiquette for kids is basically just what it's called. Kids learn about just etiquette in all different places. They talk about online etiquette, like computer etiquette, just basic social norms, greeting people, practicing that, place setting. We actually had enough students enrolled to run the class. We have a minimum of, for our enrichment classes, we ran the class if we had 15 students interested. So each class has at least 15. Okay, any other questions?
And to be, I stopped over late last week to kind of see how the first week went, and just a hustle and bustle that was going on over at Bailey and Customer Service is just amazing.
Oh, you guys need to come and see it.
Yeah.
You can. We go, I forgot the invitation. We go 8 o'clock to 12:30, and we will be in session this week, next week, and the following week, Monday through Thursday. Fridays are off.
And they have a little break between 10 and 10:30, and they love that too. The teachers love it. The students love the opportunity to sit here. They're taking more than two of the classes.
I see it every day, and my daughter's feedback is fantastic.
Oh, great.
experience. So thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just a brief high school update. Happy to announce we've got a couple new courses this year, as well as increased enrollment as well, much like the K-8 program. So a couple new things worth noting are the English 9, English 10, and Algebra 1 courses. And we've got about 40 students involved in those courses, and those are credit recovery makeup for students that need a semester of Algebra 1 or English. So we've got Katie Sobiak is one of our new English teachers, and she's had her hands full really juggling 4 different semesters of students in a couple hours that morning. And we've got a algebra teacher from outside of the district, and she as well has got her hands full, but she's doing a great job with that course as well. These classes we've all offered in the past, except for the summer band clinic, brainstorm of Superintendent Thompson. And that has added the numbers significantly, as you'll see in the next slide. So last year we had about 206 students in summer school we didn't offer the band as a summer school program per se. This year with the addition of summer school band, we jumped it up to 460. So we did increase numbers overall, really increased them with the addition of adding the summer band as a summer school course. A couple of other things I'd like to point out is that this year we do not have a waiting list for any of our classes as was past practice. Every student that wanted to get into a high school summer school class was accepted, with the exception of 2 classes that the enrollments were 4 or 5. We had medical office terms, and we tried to run one of our intro engineering courses was 5 or 6 students, so it just wasn't financially feasible. And would also like to thank our counselors for doing some very last-minute work, getting those algebra and English students in those credit recovery courses that we didn't really know which students would be eligible for some of those courses until a few days before summer school started. So I want to thank them. And also Janine Fay, who's been instrumental in helping me out this year. She's completing her administrative practicum this summer, so she's been a great help with me in the high school program. So thanks.
I took a tour this morning at the high school too, and to see that in addition to Coach Nika having the Park and Rec events for students, also wonderful to see so many students in our schools over the summer. So thank you again, very much appreciate your leadership.
And I got a question for you.
Sure.
What happened to credit recovery during the school year?
Oh, I'm sorry. That is still going on with some of our seniors, if that's what you're referring to.
During the school year?
It has about 20 students right now.
Is it only for seniors?
Seniors that need about credit or have a credit to graduate with are completing that with Shannon Moore during the summer.
During the summer?
Yeah.
Are we still running our credit recovery program? I heard we weren't during the school year. Do you remember the program? You might have been pre you being there, to be honest with you.
Can Dr. Thompson or Ryan, I'm trying to think of what you might be referring to. Shannon One right now is doing an alternative program.
We had a credit recovery program
At the high school.
during the school year. I think it was probably prior to Ken being there.
Through referring to Shannon Blunt's program, perhaps, or alternative education program.
Well, it wasn't during the summer, it was during the school year.
Yes,
we are still running that program.
Yeah. During the school year.
Yeah.
Right.
With Shannon during the school year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And then for Sarah, I have a question also, or it might even be yours, Dr. Thompson. What's our responsibility for transporting K-8 summer school students? Do we have any responsibility?
No.
Because I see we're transporting people.
We wanted to provide an opportunity for those students who are at Lake Danoon during for the before and after school. Well, the Discovery Days offers a summer program, if you will, and so they're kind of the district summer school program that has always been part of our schools, but it's not run by us. It used to be at Bay Lane, so the kids could just go from Bay Lane right over to Country Meadows and participate in the summer school program. Because summer school is large, and because also their summer program, Discovery Days program, has expanded as well, we had to move them to a different location. We didn't want those students who are in that Discovery Days program to not be able to participate. So last year, they weren't able to participate, many of them, because they didn't have transportation. So we looked at the cost benefit of having a shuttle, if you will. So we have a shuttle that starts at Lakeview, goes to Lake Danoon, and Sarah?
We actually have so many students sign up for the shuttle that we have separate.
Oh, now we have actually 2 separate ones? Okay. So we have a bus from Lakeview and a bus from Lake Danoon.
To Bay Lane?
To Bay Lane.
And then back?
Yep. And it only runs At the midpoint and at the
beginning,
end.
at the midpoint, that's one of the reasons we have a 30-minute break to allow time for the switch over, and then at the end. So some of our kids come at 8, and they catch the 12:30 bus back, and then there's a much smaller number that use it in the middle.
So in order for us to encourage more enrollment and to encourage actually, so it doesn't run after only one session. So it really encourages them to be there at least for 2 sessions. It was a benefit for us to do that. And it's consistent with what other districts are doing. So, but we don't have to.
Eric, just to follow up, we're not calling it credit recovery. That's what, sorry, that was the pause. It's really our she's in charge of our alternative education programming. So students at risk of not graduating, she's working hand in hand with those kids, with our counselors, et cetera, during the school year.
So when does that start? Freshman year, sophomore year, junior year?
I think as soon as we're recognizing kids with significant needs, I mean, we certainly don't want to wait any longer than we have to. I mean, that's, having real-time relevant data to substantiate that need, then, we need to be responsive once we have that data.
Okay.
So, all that, sorry.
Okay, so any other questions on summer school? One?
I'll mention one quick one. How does summer school play into the HIP counts?
So for our revenue limit, we get 40% of the count. And the way the summer school counts are counted, it's not the number of students, it's the number of minutes that they participate. And there's a formula factored in. So you're given up to 270 minutes per student per day to count. And then that's calculated into an FTE. So right now we're at about 23 FTEs for summer school. So doubling our numbers and doubling the number of minutes will help to increase that. So it'll increase our revenue limit by 40%, and for state aid, it actually counts the full FTEs. So next year, we'll see an increase in aid as a result of an increase in summer school, which hopefully lowers the tax levy more.
Now, do both programs count towards
Yes.
it? Okay.
Which is why the band
something
switched.
new, or because they had switched at one point? Years ago, we used to have very extensive enrichment summer school offering, and then because of the way they had to change to what qualified for it.
If any program that's taught by a licensed, a DPI licensed instructor can be counted for minutes, as long as you're not charging beyond a reasonable cost, and we don't charge for summer school. And that's really the only requirement now. They've really changed that to allow for a lot of programming to count. A lot of schools' recreation programs actually count for summer school programming based on who they have teaching the courses.
Interesting. Okay.
And that is one reason why we don't offer the online courses during the summer. Okay, so just a couple more. Actually, Brittany is going to be leaving us. One more meeting, August 4th. And so, Tony, if you want to introduce Brittany's replacement, that'd be wonderful.
Great. Sounds fun.
So we're fortunate enough to have our Performing Arts Center, and due to the student, basically the student labor force, the Performing Arts Center, we're always able to find qualified people to assist us for our board meetings. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Emily Koster. She comes highly recommended, and so even though we have one person stepping down, we're going to have another great person coming in. So Emily, why don't you just introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Emily Koster. I'm going to be a junior at Mnsd High School, and I was recommended by Mr. Kraus because I'm in the stage crew, and I've done sound for both musicals and other concerts, so I like doing technical things and would like doing this job.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
She gets an honorary pocket protector later. Thank you, Emily.
Just wanted to pass around the chamber, the Dispute Community Guide. We've been for a number of years, we've taken out an ad, if you will, in a document like this. They've kind of combined that with the map, and so I thought I'd pass around this is the ad. This is the part that they did do for us, the education part, but then we did purchase an ad in that document. And finally, the boys golf team was awarded the sportsmanship by the by a conference, so the Classic 8. So wanted to let the community know that, and certainly we congratulate the coaches and the athletes for their outstanding efforts with regard to so congratulations.
All right.
And Scott Coffey for his leadership in that area. Thank you.
Moving on with the agenda, President's Report. Just a couple things I wanted to mention. This past Saturday, the water bugs, in conjunction with, Moriarty. I've known her for years and I can't ever see her last name. I apologize. They held a clinic at Idle Isle for some of our students and past students that have special needs, physical needs, and they did a water skiing clinic and got all these kids out on the water skiing, and it's really phenomenal. I was there taking pictures, and Kelly's got a bunch of them that I think she'll post either on our website or our Facebook page. But these kids they were just grinning ear to ear, and just an experience that they normally wouldn't have a chance for doing. And it was amazing the amount of people that were coming up. There was a husband and wife that was out there. Her husband was in a wheelchair, but he had to be kayaking that day. And she was asking all about the program and everything. So just it was a neat outreach to the community, and it was a neat program. In addition to this, I'm sure most of you, not all of you, saw on July 1st, Journal Sentinel did an article on our lunch program. They were talking about us in the Waterford School District who have opted out of the free and reduced lunch program, so we can continue on with our previously successful lunch program and menu. In addition to that, for some reason, the article had been picked up by a number of national media outlets, prompting a nationally syndicated radio show out of Washington, D.C. called the Capitol Hill Show. They contacted me and did about a 10-minute interview on the subject, and it aired last Thursday. But for some reason, this whole subject matter has caught like wildfire, and it's very popular all over the internet. Been contacted by people pretty much nationwide. So, just give you a heads up on that. That concludes my report for this evening. Next on the agenda is board member reports. Done. All right, moving on. Committee reports. Business services.
We did not meet this evening, so there's no report.
Educational services.
We did not meet this evening.
Thank you very much. Student representation, we do not have any, since students are off enjoying their vacation. Public forum. This is the opportunity to bring your concerns or comments to the school board. Does anyone wish to speak at public forum? Talkative bunch tonight we are. Having none, moving on to item 6, resolution action items. Item 6A, Country Metals principal hire.
Motion to approve Courtney Arnson as principal of Country Meadows Elementary School, effective July 15, 2014, at a prorated salary of $98,813.
So moved.
Second.
I guess discussion would entail you coming up and introducing yourself.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here tonight and for the opportunity to really continue the success that Country Meadows has had in the recent years as the new elementary principal there. And I feel that I am ready to support and work with the talented staff there, the families and parents of that school community, and also with every student that is attending Country Meadows in this upcoming school year. So I'm also looking forward to the work that begins tomorrow with the talented leadership staff that we have in this district. And I know that I have a strong team that I'm able to turn to with questions that I'm sure will be arising shortly as I move into this new role. But being able to transition from the coaching role that I had held last year and feel prepared to assume the responsibilities that are coming my way in this new role. So in the upcoming weeks, really planning to find what makes Country Meadows so unique and put plans into place to continue that success that they've had with the staff and the students that are there. And also just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Gels for setting up a structure that provides for that success and the leadership where I'm able to begin my experience and my journey in that school. I'm looking forward to what the future has. And I think this upcoming school year has providing wonderful opportunities for both our staff and our students. As I had mentioned earlier, just a lot was new this past year, and being able to spend more time really exploring and refining what those structures are and able to support all of the students that we have at that school and in our district, aligning our school goals with the goals that the district holds and that parents are holding and finding value in for our students. So with that, thank you, and looking forward to supporting all those students and the families there.
Welcome. We're excited to have you start.
Thanks a lot.
Moving on with the agenda, yes, we need to vote on this. Small details. All those in favor, state aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Moving on with the agenda, item number 6B, policy number 5530, administrative guidelines.
Motion to approve third reading of policy number 5530.01, administrative guidelines for random drug testing for high school participants in athletics and co-curricular activities, and create a co-curricular fee of $10 per student.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
So in your package last week, we provided you with a sort of this final action for the policy and for the guidelines. After further discussion on Friday with Scott Kluge and Ryan Ertel, we had just minor changes just to make sure that we were all on the same page, and actually Pro Health as well. So what you have in your packet, if you open up the most recent, there is just some highlighted yellow that was added. And so, for instance, in the policy, we just wanted to make sure that we were clear in always stating athletics and co-curriculars. So we added in a couple of spots in the policy athletics and, so that was clear and there wasn't any wiggle room for anybody to question that. So that was just a clarity piece. With regard to the guidelines, what you'll notice from the last reading is the yellow, which is adding an athletic where there wasn't athletic noted when we spoke about co-curriculars. But also that it didn't differentiate associate principal, for instance. It just said MHS administrator. So that is the bolded, underlined in some of the areas. Also, we changed urine sample to just sample. So wherever it was like a urine specimen or whatever, it was more broadly addressed as a sample. And so you'll see that that is a change. Also, another minor change, in accordance with federal, it was the Department of Transportation, but now it's the National Institute on Drug Abuse. So really the intent of the entire policy has stayed the same. It's just some clarity aspects. If you go under notification of testing and testing results in the guidelines, that's on page 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth bullet down, we had 24 hours with regard to receiving the testing results. It's actually closer to 48 hours, and if there's a positive result noted, it could take up to 72 hours. So we wanted to be clear about the practicality of some of these testing results coming back to families. We combined a couple of bullets further down, and the next highlighted yellow part, we took out administrative, where it says administrative personnel. We took the administrative piece out because as far as the personnel who would be supporting the implementation of the consequences, it would be coaches, and so they do need to be informed with regard to, what occurred because of the consequences related to any positive testing. Other than that, you know, at the very last, the financial considerations, the district will incur the cost of the added initial testing. To be clear that any retesting would be the parents, at the parents' expense, or the second. So any questions for Scott or for administration?
I just had one, and I missed it. Is there a reason, just formatting-wise, why performance enhancers is underlined?
We added that as a possibility in the future. So if we chose to do that in the future, the policy would allow for us to do that.
So, okay, because I just underline it draws me to it, but.
Yeah, only because it was added.
Okay.
Yes. Thanks.
And that co-curricular fee of $10 per student is a one-time? Is it every co-curricular that you participate in? One time?
One time annually.
So if you participate in 3 sports, you will just pay $10 for that school year.
Okay. And the change from urine specimen to sample was because?
In conversation with ProHealth that was earlier last week, administration did find out that they could do some hair samples as well, testing in hair. So they wanted to make sure that that was an option in case that was needed.
So the consent form, does that define what kind of sampling might occur? I don't know.
Exactly.
It does?
It does.
Okay. And then I just have some grammatical things that I'll share later.
Okay.
So notification of testing and testing results. It says the test coordinator designee will be notified within 48 hours. So if a testing occurs on a Friday, how is that going to occur? So I expect it probably won't be reported till Monday, which is 72 hours.
Right.
So should we have this 72 hours, whether it's positive or negative?
You could, or we could just not test on Friday.
Why don't we do the 72? Because I wouldn't want us to limit and not test on a Friday.
Would it make sense to do that, or say 2 business days?
Whatever. I was just staying consistent with the 72 hours for a positive test.
Because if we do business days, it kind of gives you some leeway. I mean, if you're hitting right up at 48 hours and, you know, say they get tested at 9 o'clock in the morning, by them at noon.
If you had a snow day,
Yeah.
that would not be a business day, so
be a
you would
business day,
push
right.
it to the next day.
Doesn't matter. Just I don't want us to limit Fridays and then have students understand that we're not doing testing on Fridays.
Why don't we change it to, is there any objection to changing it to 2 business days? So I'll make that motion.
Objection.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of the proposed change from 48 hours to 2 business days, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's it.
And then upon this being approved tonight, which I believe it will, are we going to look at, do we need to look at the co-curricular code? Because there was a lot of talk in the beginning of this, and we haven't really talked about it since then, about the penalty portion of a positive test.
Are you referring to, I recall in the beginning, we had some discussions about possibly looking at the code and having, I don't want to use the word reward, but I think stronger or better is coming to mind at this point for students that seek some sort of rehab or something?
That, and I don't know how we would administer that, to be honest with you, but there was also some discussion about currently, I believe, Scott, if a underage alcohol violation comes to our attention, isn't it typically in our code, it's a 3-day or 3 event or 3 game suspension?
For athletics, it's a 33% suspension.
33%, okay.
So it could be a lot higher than 3 games.
Right, so there was some discussion in the beginning of these talks about with a positive test, at least in my opinion, we're trying to get help for these individuals. With a positive test, are we going to have a different penalty than what the typical penalty is for being arrested or cited for a drug or alcohol violation? And I had made a suggestion at one point that a first offense would be a 1 game, 1 incident, 10%, whatever you want to call it, 5%, and then on second violation, we'd go directly to the 33%. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know if that's what we should be doing.
But we won't know until we look at it.
I'm wondering if we should have discussions about that and come to some consensus between Scott's department and the board as to, are we comfortable with leaving it at 33%, or do we want to do something different for just the drug testing?
What kind of time frame are you thinking of for reviewing it on this? I mean, if we...
Well, we'd have to review it before the school year started if you were going to...
quite honestly, I don't think that part of it's feasible to get in place by the time the school year starts, necessarily.
But wouldn't you want it in place at the same time that you start the program?
No, because I think we can start the program and then we can always make changes to that part of it. I don't want to delay. I wouldn't want to delay one for the other.
No, I don't want to delay it either. But my concern is we started with fall sports. We have a positive. It's a 33%. And then when we get to winter sports, we make a change, which it's now a 5% or a 10%. How fair is that? You definitely have to either make it September or the following September. But if we can review it in the meantime, prior to the September, and we come to a conclusion, great. If we don't, we'll have to delay it for a year.
So I think some of the sports start in August.
Yeah.
Football already had contact days this week.
Right.
I'm not trying to
And
understand.
I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm just, recognize that some of those sports are starting earlier than September.
I'm not sure I understand. So that you're saying the current alcohol policy is different, or that there's a policy that conflicts with the policy?
No, there's no conflict. The question is, do we want to review that co-curricular code and determine whether we want the penalty portion of it to be the same for random drug testing as it is for being arrested or cited, or at least having a known violation.
Well, right now, the drug testing policy states that a positive result would not result in an arrest or so.
But it
just says you have to inform the coach, right? So what implies that you're going to follow wherever the code is.
So you're going to follow then the drug testing then, and then if that happened, then I'm still trying to follow.
Drug testing right now, if we approve this, would carry the same weight as an arrest or a citation.
And that weight is what?
In penalty. 33% of for athletics at least, 33% suspension of the season.
Okay.
For that individual.
But without going through the whole discussion on that part of it, likely not really part of this policy, but who cares they violated it. It shouldn't be the same penalty.
Well, it might be the lens through which you're viewing the policy, right? So if you view the policy as punitive, then yes, it would be the same. If you view it as rehabilitative, that you're there to get them help, then maybe no.
And that's exactly what I had brought up months ago, that I think that we should view this policy in a different light than an individual being arrested or cited for an alcohol or drug violation. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I can't say I agree or disagree, but what I can say is I don't feel comfortable. I myself don't think it's something that we could resolve before the school year. Now, having that discussion and looking at the policy, I think it would be something that we should do, but I think it's something that maybe we can spread out somewhere throughout the year, have discussions, and have it take effect the following school year.
Do we have 2 school board sessions in August?
Yes.
Why don't we put it on for the 1st and 2nd? See if we come to it might just be a consensus immediately as to where we should go. And if it does, then it comes to, we come to some consensus by the 2nd meeting. None of the testing is going to take place until the 1st week of September or after. Then it would be in place at that point. If we can't, then we'll have to wait till the following year. And I can give you more reasons why I think it's important that we talk about it prior to September when we're talking about that agenda item. I don't know if I really can talk about it here.
Yeah, well, we're not in, like I said, we're in gray area right now. Anyway.
Right.
So
if we can at least put it on for discussion, I have some more things that I'd like to say about it that I think you would find compelling or at least interesting. Maybe not compelling.
that being said, going back to the motion on the table.
I have one more clarification, if you don't mind. So on this, and I was going back to a question that Lisa asked about the payment. So and I just want to cite this one paragraph. So students become eligible for random drug testing on the first day they participate in a co-curricular activity. Students remain eligible for random drug testing throughout the remainder of his or her high school years, whether or not the student has been previously tested or is currently participating in a co-curricular activity at the time he or she might be selected for a drug test. So if someone is a freshman in the fall term, joins a co-curricular, pays the fee for that one co-curricular, and then stops and never is in a co-curricular again, they don't have to pay that fee every year, but they're still eligible for the random drug testing, right? But there is no additional financial burden on them during those years. Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
So then I have one question. I'm not sure who it would be for, but what about a student that's 18 years old, receives a positive test? Are we notifying a parent of an 18-year-old?
Of a 19-year-old?
18-year-old.
We would speak to the child. Obviously, they're of age where they can tell us not, but they have to cover the ramifications that occur at school.
So initially, you wouldn't contact the parent. You'd contact the student. Probably ask permission to contact the parent. But if they refused, it would just be a student. Okay.
At school. And then, obviously, you have an obligation under your policies. If there's some sort of penalty or some sort of discipline, I'm sure you don't keep that from the parent if you're 18.
Okay, so that actually sparks my next question. So we have our, 18-year-old Johnny tests positive. We speak to him. He says, no, I prefer we don't talk to my parents. They're in baseball. They have a 10-game suspension, roughly. Parents ask us, why is he being suspended? What's our response?
In my experience, Rick, we would always notify the parents. They're always part of that loop somewhere. They get a copy of the letter by policy, the suspension letter.
But I think it's a little different for them because you're the medical. That's what I was asking. I was asking on the medical side.
Well, but this turns into the medical side of it. So because now he's being suspended for the medical side of it, we probably need to find out what if this falls under HIPAA, I guess.
He's consenting to the screening. He's consenting to release that information to you. We will release that information to you. And then you have to make a decision on your policies and processes that you currently have when you suspend a child for whatever reason.
I understand that, but we also have legal responsibilities on who and how we can notify to a majority-aged student.
That's what she's saying.
Right?
We have to make that decision.
Well, yeah, but I'd like it based in law.
So anecdotally, as you work with children and parents, it does come up. When Dr. Ed speaks to them, she kind of softens it and says it's probably best for us to speak. Are you willing to give me consent? I don't think I have had anyone that hasn't allowed us to speak to the parent.
Well, that's positive. That's positive to hear, but.
And I have a
There's always
program
first
at
time.
another facility that houses 19-year-olds, so but they're paying the tuition for the school as well. So they want to know.
I'll follow up.
Any other questions or discussion on this matter?
Just one other question on the medical end of this. So, sample's positive. The parent in here, it gives the ability for the parent to get that sample tested.
Retested.
Right.
Original sample.
How do they go about getting, how does that delivery of that sample to their facility occur?
So when Dr. Radke speaks to the parent, she indicates the test is positive. She also talks about if you have any questions. She also offers that. If they accept, she arranges for another scientist and another test approved to do this testing, and we will have that sent under the guise of the parent request.
And under their
Financial obligation.
Okay. What if they say, no, I'd like to take it to my own, I'm going to come pick it up?
They can't pick it up.
You
It's
can
already
send
in
it.
forensic lab, so the scientist will only release it to another scientist.
Okay.
So we will give them a list of the approved labs they can choose, and then we can move it on from there. And then it is couriered by a courier.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to, I guess, speak before we vote on it. And I think it's important that parents have brought this forward, because I think that was the impetus behind this. I'll front it. I am going to vote yes for it, but there's a part of me that's very uncomfortable with this. And part of it, I suppose, is the lawyer in me. I understand, I guess, the impetus behind it, but I'm very cognizant of sampling, and it's a very private thing. I believe our attorneys that this will pass constitutional muster, and I guess that the only thing that strikes me in here where we look at our policy as being the reasoning is when Ted mentioned in all the studies that it's kind of a crapshoot of whether this is really effective or not to deter drug use. So the only thing that I glom onto here is that if it gives students a reason to stay as an out, that resonates with me. But I guess I'm just, I think it's an unfortunate state of our community and where we are that we've come to this. That there's not enough support systems in place, whether that be at home or in other settings, that we're turning to schools to have to pick up this piece of what I would like to think schools shouldn't have to get involved with and shouldn't have to do. So it's with reluctance that I will vote yes, but it's very, very reluctantly.
Anyone else? The portion of that you had said that the strong motivator for me is that tool that the students have to be able to credibly tell their friends, no, I don't want to do this because they do this now. They drug test us. I don't want to take that chance. And I think speaking with my son and his friends, that piece in and of itself is very powerful. So hopefully it'll have the intended impact that we're looking for. With that being said, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on with the agenda, item 6C, donations. thank you for
Thank you very much.
Scott, and
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, all the time and effort you put into this. Item 6E, donations.
Motion to accept with thanks the following donations. At Muskego Elementary School from the PTO, $208.79 for purchase of garden plants. At Lake Union Middle School from Coles Cares, $1,000 for Mr. Earl's students to attend a junior achievement event. At Muskego High School, $100 from Mr. and Mrs. Jurgis, $200 from Mr. and Mrs. Boyson, and $100 from the Bear Foundation for the Muskego High School Band. And also at the Muskego High School, $200 from Mr. and Mrs. Boyson, and $100 from the Bear Foundation for boys tennis.
All those in favor say aye. I'm sorry. Can I have a motion to approval?
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
That being said, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 6D, recommendation to approve WiseDash local data warehouse dashboard for the 2014-15 school year.
Motion to approve the WiseDash Local Data Warehouse dashboard for 2014-2015 school year.
So moved.
Discussion?
Tony's here to provide any further detail or answer any further questions the board may have, or give any more updates.
Sure.
You know, if you have
Oh yeah, actually, if you don't mind, Thursday of last week, we met for kind of our first annual meeting, and it was just the 5 initial districts and a few other individuals, and we actually were able to do interviews for a DBA, which is a database administrator, because we'd be looking to hire one to support the system that we're looking to get up and running. So very exciting just to kind of be initial. We joke that we're kind of meeting out of a garage. That's how this seemingly started, with just a few conversations randomly with Kurt Kiefer from the DPI and a few other interested districts. So some great opportunity, and hopefully something that we can take advantage of here.
So when would you think we'd be able to use the data?
General go live for us? Good question. Green Bay is going to be the first district to step forth, and it was something that we elected them to go, hey, you take the step off the cliff first. Noting they're the larger district, they can obviously support that process a little better. They anticipate that by mid-September they'll be live, and then our following districts, the remaining 4, would then step closely thereafter. So we're hoping that October would be our go live.
And then we would use that pretty much the same as the state database.
Yep.
Now we could pull data from the local one as well, right?
Yes, right. So WiseDash Secure, which you can look at in the past, there's a public portal for that, and also for our staff. That's lagging data that's been uploaded over time, WKC scores, etc. Whereas, again, WiseDash Local will be able to pull from Infinite Campus. Test scores basically be live. So as soon as the data can show up in WiseDash Local, which is usually a 24-hour process, then it would be available for any of our dashboard systems.
Thank you.
So is this going to, at some point, replace anything that we're currently using in this district?
Yeah, the goal is to replace Tableau. Right now, we have Tableau as our dashboard system, but what we think we'll find is WiseDash Local will far exceed the capacity of Tableau. And also, the big thing is with any software, the longevity of it is how well it's used. So not only is our district going to be using something like this, but we'll find support from what we consider to be eventually hundreds of other districts using the software. So again, in terms of perpetuity and longevity, it would certainly be more of a guarantee than anything. So that's what we're looking to replace, but until we have that up and running, we're not looking to get rid of Tableau just yet.
When do you, if everything goes well, when do you perceive we'll be able to replace it?
Right. So usually Tableau has to be a year-long system, so it probably wouldn't be until the next
school year.
Correct. Yeah. We usually renew in July 1, so as a result, it would probably go into that. Until we get people trained fully in WiseDash Local, which again, I don't consider that to be real significant, only because WiseDash Secure is already there in terms of a format. But it's not like once October comes, everyone will be just immediately into the system. So there'll be some time to transition as well.
Any other questions for Tony? You're looking for approval for this tonight, I believe. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thanks.
Thank you.
Moving on to discussion items. Item 7A, 2014-2015 budget.
Julie? Okay, so I have on your table is just a financial update. We were going to have, I guess, a little bit more of an update for you. However, Skyward was really not cooperating these last 2 weeks, and so we have some year-end entries that still need to be done. So these aren't the final numbers. We do have our audit coming up on July 31st and August 1st, so we'll have all of our entries done, and we will be able to report out to the board right in the beginning of September what our fund balance roll, I guess, looks like. We do anticipate rolling money into fund balance again this year, so we'll have more information for you at that time. And I did want to update on for 14-15, we did receive our July 1st estimate from the Department of Public Instruction on what our aid will be for 2014-15. We originally estimated that our aid would go up about 0.5% from this past year to the 14-15 year. And our estimates right now are showing that it's actually going to go down 1.2%. And that's a result of the state changing the guarantees within the formula. And so the amount of aid that's being allocated to schools is not less, it's just how they're allocating it in each of those tiers is different than anticipated. And so we're actually looking to go down slightly. The impact of that right now looks like about a 0.1% increase to the tax levy. However, that aid amount is based off of our actual costs. So once schools report out actual costs for 13-14, we'll get a more accurate number of what that looks like. I don't anticipate our tax levy increasing, but we will prepare the preliminary budget for you to approve for the annual meeting with a 0% tax levy. We'll give you both options, what it actually is, and then what the 0% would look like.
What is 1.2% dollar amount?
I can tell you in a second.
Like 200,000?
Yeah, it's just about that.
That's actually what was listening to.
220.
So again, that's not a it's less money that we'll get from the state, but not less money that we use for the budgets. We don't have to make $200,000 in additional cuts. It's just the tax levy has to make up that difference for us. Again, very preliminary numbers. We have to report our final numbers to DPI by September, which is why the aid certification actually occurs in October. Any questions?
How many, we only have about 5 more meetings before the annual.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And when do we have to certify?
With the city?
Yeah,
the
certify
tax levy?
certify what we're going to be presenting at the annual meeting.
Publishing?
Publishing.
Yeah, September, right? Or middle of September?
Yeah, what my goal would be to have the budget August 4th. Preliminary budget, and if we're comfortable with where we're at, have you approve it on the 18th in August. We can get the books published by September.
I bring that up because if anyone has specific things they want looked at, bring those forward sooner than later. I know we don't have all the information we need right now, but instead of cashing over it at the last minute or the last night of the meeting, I think it's helpful for us as board members and support that we have that information as soon as possible so we can work our way through it. Anything else? All right. Moving on to discussion items. Sorry.
I just said thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Moving on to discussion items 7B, 2014-2015 board and
So in your package you have our proposed 2014-15 key performance objectives. These are our annual goals, and we've been presenting key performance objectives since 2008. And if you here in 2008, you'll notice we had 28 goals at that point in time. Over the years, we've reduced those KPOs, annual goals, down to this year 4. The last few years, between 8 and 9. It's really our effort to be focused. It's not that we let things go, but we really want to be focused around some real key elements. So that's what you'll see in front of you. As a reminder, to the right, on the right side of this document is our strategic plan, our core competencies. Those are our adult behaviors. Those are the things that we believe are important in order to positively impact our student goals. So the first core competency is that exemplary teaching and learning, and our key performance objective that we're proposing is to increase reading achievement and growth for all students. Under highly effective personnel is to integrate staff effectiveness models. Continuous improvement is to expand personalized learning system-wide in order to maximize the potential of all students being college and career ready. And sound stewardship is to develop or deploy, actually, innovative solutions to wellness, compensation, and facility needs. As noted in the little write-up, we've been developing our annual KPOs. The development of those KPOs started in early spring, where we reviewed the KPOs from 2013-14 to determine what needed to continue. We looked at our strategic plan. Our cabinet does a SWOT analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We look at that data, as well as our 3-year plans at the district, department, and school levels to determine what are the things that we need to focus in on. We received input from our staff. We went to each building and had face-to-face meetings with any personnel who were interested in providing feedback. We had good turnout. And this is just, these 4 key performance objectives are our goals, but I did want to show you some of the background behind what this will support our efforts once we approve these. So what we have, those board members who attended the evidence-based leadership will kind of maybe see this as familiar. Our core competencies are at the top, and then essentially looking at annual results measures. So this is just a draft at this point in time, but it's our district eye on the goal. And down here, each one of the schools will develop an eye on the goal that's aligned with these core competencies, those 4, as well as the KPOs that are being proposed tonight. So for instance, under, under the exemplary teaching and learning, for academic literacy, we have goals that are specific to, looking at growth, so ensuring that students who are proficient or exceeding proficiency make 1 year's growth in 1 year's time, and if they are below proficiency, that they're actually making more than 1 year's growth in 1 year's time. So what we're going to be doing is looking at, we have X's in there right now because we need to look at longitudinally what can we expect and how do we do that. So out of the certain percentage of students who are proficient, how many can we expect, or what percentage of those can we expect to grow 1 year? Certainly our goal, our ultimate goal is that 100% of our students are proficient and 100% of our students are making a year's growth. But we're not there yet, and so we know that there will be a long-term goal that we're going to strive for. Annually, we're going to continue to make progress toward that long-term goal. So that's growth. As far as achievement, with all of the changes that we're going to be experiencing over this year with state assessments, we're going to really need to look at this year as a baseline year. We've never given this Smarter Balance at in the spring. We don't know how our students are going to do. We expect them to do well, but we're going to have to find out where they are, and we're going to actually use that data and look at how we're comparing to other Waukesha County school districts. So the other one is sort of our trajectory and what we need to achieve at with regard to growth. And this one, we're going to look at where are we at now, this year, how do we compare to other school districts and making sure that we are in the top third of Waukesha County school districts. So we look at that for our state assessments, for our general population, our aggregate, as well as our disaggregated groups. So that's our achievement. And looking at all of our new assessments. And Ted Getterman, Dr. Ted Getterman will be providing us with an overview of all the assessment changes on August 4th, and then providing us with a plan for parent information, just so you know, because this will be a big change for districts this year. So that's under our first student goal, academic literacy. Our second student goal is meaningfully engaged, and so we'll be tracking our student engagement data, and we'll be expecting growth in that area as well. Again, this is sort of a new area for us, and so we'll be getting baseline data for this year, and then expecting growth so that we are above the benchmark median. College and career, we're going to be looking longitudinally at what our seniors have reported out on the annual postgraduate survey, as far as if they're enrolling in education beyond high school, and so we'll be tracking that and looking to increase that percentage. So we have to get the longitudinal data yet, and then we'll indicate from X to X, and that we'll be looking at in August. Long-term goal is that using our ACT composite. So now the difference with ACT now, we've got lots of longitudinal data with ACT, but it was for students who chose to take ACT. They also could take it multiple times over multiple years, and by the senior year, their highest score was the one that kind of was attached to us through DPI. This time, it will be their junior year, and it will be the one testing that's provided. So how do they do? 100% of our students on March 3rd or March 18th, they have to do the makeup, and that's the time, and that's the score that is attached to our school system, even though those students may take it multiple times, or they may have taken it prior and received a higher score. So we're still working on that, but again, it's different for us, and so we're going to look at that, and we're going to compare ourselves to Waukesha County, and we want to continue to strive. We're going to be the district of choice. We have to make sure that our students are prepared for taking the ACT, they understand, and that our district curriculum is aligned to all of those standards. So that's an example of what we're working on with regard to making sure that we're increasing reading. And actually, all the scores related to what we're tracking, it's reading. It's specific to reading proficiency. And then that goes on with each one of the core competencies in the KPOs. So under highly effective personnel, if we're integrating staff effectiveness models, we're providing 100% of our staff with performance feedback. And the second goal is that what we know from research is that if we have an engaged employee group, they are going to work their best. And so we did get some baseline data in spring at 3.84 on a 5-point scale. That's exactly at median with our benchmarks, which is interesting. But we want to be above median, and so we have at this point a 3.92. That's what we'd look to increase as a short-term goal. Under the core competency of continuous improvement, we have a pathways document. You might recall seeing that, where we look at if students are going to be college and career ready by the end of the year, end of their 13 years of schooling with us. Let's benchmark. Let's see at second grade, how are their math and reading. At fourth grade, at different steps of the way, how are they doing at making sure that 100% of our students are taking algebra by 8th grade, those types of things. And so we want to increase, and actually during our board data retreat, that was one of the boxes that we had on the college and career component. And so if as a group, as an aggregate, it's currently we have 30% of our kids meeting all of those by the time they're in 12th grade. We want to increase that. So again, moving toward the long-term goal that 100% of our kids are college and career ready. And then we have some long-term goals related to parent satisfaction and making sure that every student is creating and setting and monitoring their own academic goals, or that they have an academic and career plan. So those are examples under continuous improvement. And under the sound stewardship of resources, we have goals related to wellness, facility needs, setting up, for this next year, creating a communications and gaining community input and readiness and the scope of work and all of that related to the facilities. and compensation, the deployment of a new compensation model. So those are examples of what we're working on right now to breathe life and action into each one of those KPOs and into our core competencies. Any questions about that document? So it's still in draft form. And then further, so that we track, and so we have a KPO and we also have department performance objectives. We have what are called milestones. So we have 3 to 5 action steps that will get us to here in 1 year. And then we have particular check-ins or deadlines. And each month, our cabinet goes through this document, and each one of the core competencies is down below, and we're still working on this document. It should be completed by the start of the school year. And each month, we have time that we go through the CPR card and determine, okay, if it's after October 30th, have we completed this? And then we would put a ranking in there, and it would, color it red, yellow, or green, with, depending on how progress is. So that's our continuous progress report tied to our KPOs and our department performance objectives. Any questions about that?
I've got one.
Sure.
And we only spent a lot of time on this, but in general, so you've got your goals, you got the metrics, but how do you measure a lot of this? It just, for instance, I'll pick one here. We'll just pick increase, or the DPO, increase writing proficiency for all students. 5 to 8, provide PD and implement writing instruction and assessment across the content areas. What would be the measurement to see if you met that, other than just saying you did?
Yep, great question. So the CPR card is really about processes. Are we providing the PD necessary for us to have employees prepared to increase that writing? A document that we don't have up right now are department dashboards. So Lisa and Dawn have on their dashboard how are kids doing in writing, what are the writing assessments, and they track on their dashboard the increases with regard to that. Okay. So it's a department objective. It's not a system, it is system-wide, but it's just, that's how it's.
So it's not anecdotal, there's evidence or there's artifacts that are collected to measure the goal that was brought forward, right? Okay.
Drills down on
it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That's fine.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. So we're done. All right, and then the second part are the proposed board goals, and they align nicely with some of the efforts that the board will be working through with administration over this next year. The first, under responsible resource stewardship, relates specifically to providing responsible resource stewardship by developing a plan to address aging elementary buildings and enhancement needs to the high school athletic facilities and fields. And the plan would include the community readiness and perspective, as well as scope of work and timelines, in addition to other things that we deem important in that plan. The second, with regard to board development, would be around evidence-based leadership and how that prepares our system for future Wisconsin Center Performance Excellence application, requesting feedback on our continuous improvement efforts. You might recall in 2010, the district did write an application to the Wisconsin Forward Award and did receive some great feedback, and we believe that we've moved our system forward related to the OFIs that the opportunities for improvement, and would be prepared in the next year or two to write another application to see how far we've grown. Board governance, this would, there's quite a bit of work that administrators have been working on with regard to Neola policy review process, and some of those have kind of trickled in to the board, so you can see how that looks from a Neola, how it differs from our current policy approach. But we will need to work and take a considerable amount of time with the board to review the hundreds of other policies that we haven't brought forward. So we'll develop a plan and actually bring that forward in August for the board to consider. But that would be the board governance goal that we're proposing. And I would be bringing these back if anybody has some edits or some, additional areas that they'd like us to consider. I'd certainly be happy to do that. Otherwise, I'd be bringing it back for action on August 4th.
Any further questions for comments?
All right.
Hearing none. Item 7C, policy number 5771, school and student safety searches, first reading.
So we, through a lot of the discussions we had with random drug testing and really looking at drug prevention and early identification and things like that, that it's a system of things. It's not just one thing. We talked a great deal about canine searches with the board members interested in, having ideas about different approaches in conducting canine searches. Also, parents on our random drug testing survey that we sent out. That was one of the themes from the comments was, could we look at either more searches or searching, the big one was, searching kids. You can't do that, but more in-depth types of searches related to, personal belongings, so rather than just the lockers. So what we did is we worked with Neola. Neola actually takes all of the search policies and puts them into one policy. So I did include in the packet the current search policies under 446. There's 446, 446.1, and 446.2. Separately, the student searches and seizures, the locker and desk, and then the canine searches. And so they put them all in one. The real impetus was to get some language in related to the use of dogs. And on page 3 of the policy, if you go down after the ABC items, the second paragraph specifically speaks to, on occasion, students may be asked to leave their backpacks, bags, or other personal belongings in a classroom or other area if dogs are being used in that area. And essentially, the practical aspect of it would be that we would randomly choose some classrooms or, even if there's a presentation in the PAC, wherever, and we would ask students to leave that area, leave their backpacks and personal belongings, purses and things like that. We would have them leave the area, be escorted into a different area, and bring the dogs into that classroom where personal belongings are. We wouldn't search any item unless it was detected by a dog to, from their sniff, and then we would, the high school would then proceed with a search at that point.
And we've run it by council?
Yes. And we also asked other, and Candace, and asked other districts if they've been using it. Not many responded to Candace's request, but some that are included here: New Berlin West, not Eisenhower, which is interesting, Oconomowoc, and Greenfield.
You're going to sense a theme for me tonight. I guess I'm just surprised. Because at the outset, I understand from the policy, right, is that the students don't have an expectation of privacy in lockers and desks. Because a desk can be opened. If you think of an old-fashioned desk, right, the desk can be open, you can put your personal belongings in. Once you've relinquished your personal control into the desk or the locker, it's open to being looked at. I walk into my classroom with my own backpack, and I set it on my chair. I guess I'm just surprised that I can be told to leave the classroom and my personal belonging behind, which I have not put in a desk nor my locker, and that is subject to search.
If the dog detects something.
But I'm not allowing that. I mean, forced
To leave
So-
the
to leave
personal
it,
belongings.
to allow the dog.
But you're not allowed to leave, I mean, in a traffic stop,
Yes, you can refuse the dog search.
can you?
Sure. And then they have to go get a warrant because you've refused, unless
Well,
there's
you can refuse to search, but the dog comes up if the dog indicates something's in the car, that's your probable cause.
But then they have probable cause. But that's because the
But you
Supreme Court has said that a dog search is constitutional in that instance. But I mean, an officer, and maybe Eric to speak to this, I mean, they can't just randomly stop your car for no cause and bring a dog out, right?
No, you have to have cause for
Right.
stop. You can bring the
So-
dog out. What I'm kind of thinking the same way you are with, so, and I know it's different, but
Mhm.
in the traffic stop, I can ask somebody to exit the vehicle. I can ask them to leave their belongings in the vehicle.
Right.
But if they don't, I can't make them leave
Put
their
them back
belongings
in.
in the vehicle.
Right.
For the dog to then come and search. Or if we did a consent search on the car, I can go through everything in the vehicle. But I can't demand that somebody leaves the purse in the vehicle, which I assume has the drugs in it. So it is kind of interesting, because you're basically demanding that they leave the items
Right.
in the room, a personal item in the room.
My purse, right?
Right.
My purse, yeah.
Where I could see if you said, okay, everybody, we're going to go outside and do something, and they left it in the room.
Right.
That
So-
might be a little.
And I don't mean, so the young man who has his wallet in his pants pocket is going to leave the room with his wallet. But the young lady who has a purse, because young ladies maybe don't keep their things in their pants, have to leave their purse behind. Okay, I mean, Mike's saying that this all has withstood some sort of challenges. I guess I'm just really surprised.
I'm a little surprised also.
Yeah, I guess
But the interesting part is after the first or second dog search of a room, no one will be carrying anything questionable off their person,
You would think,
so that they can exit the room.
with whatever they don't want people to know.
But that's beside the point.
Yeah, right.
And we were clear when you, this was announced by Mike, that we would be requesting that they leave their belongings behind, not that we just ask them if they're in the room.
Yes, he wrote this.
Okay.
This was added to Neola. So I wanted specific language that would be typed.
How is it, how's it compared to searches of cars? That they're leaving their car behind, we're searching the.
Because you say that when you get your parking permit.
Got it.
Right? When I enter school, I'm not signing something that says, and by the way, anything I'm carrying on me, my purse, my backpack, you can search. I never sign anything that says that. So everything here is all interpreted versus, right? Cases and judges have all decided on constitutional limitations of students in schools. So that's what this all is, right? So unless we have everybody sign a consent to search, which would be, I'm sure we would never do. That this is now entering just a different territory of the canine.
There's a difference between a canine search and actually opening the item, right? We're not opening it, but I know.
Well, once it hits, we're opening it.
Are they in the room when we're opening it?
We only search it once they're with us, yes. It's in the presence of the student. So we get a hit on car, we go get the student, and they're with us when.
So to Eric's point, if I'm going to carry something in, it's not going to take me very long to figure out that I need to keep it in my pants. If I walk, why can't students be in the classroom? Is it? I don't know.
Safety of the dog. If the dog does detect.
They're aggressively.
Okay.
So that we don't, so the students are asked to, and I guess I don't know, I routinely, or I'm trying to think if I've ever received an email, I think I may have, or a notice saying that this has happened, but so my son or daughter's in the classroom, they're asked to leave, the dogs come in, dogs, and then they're lined up, I assume, outside. I guess I assume the dog, but not rightfully so, I guess, also walked, paraded by the students. And no, and I guess I falsely assumed that if the dog sensed something, then the student was pulled aside, and maybe the parents would be contacted.
No.
Okay,
That's unconstitutional.
okay. That does not happen.
No.
Why is that unconstitutional for a student?
Because I do, as a student, I do not relinquish the right to search my person except on the basis of probable cause and reasonable suspicion.
And a student has that, right?
Absolutely. And besides which, I also have parental consent that, many have to be given in certain situations.
But the parent can do it, right?
Well, yeah.
Sure can do it.
Search any one of your kids.
Okay.
But, to call a parent into a school to search their child?
Right.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
What about schools who use metal detectors? Walking. Are you signing off that you're willing to be searched? To your point, if you're walking through a metal detector, it goes off. Are we talking about kind of the same thing?
Well, but you have the opposite. Definitely you have the option to turn around and leave it, don't you?
Well, I know we don't use them here, but I know.
I would think, right? And you forego your education for that day, right? Yeah. Or you get rid of whatever it is you have as a detector on that you can get in, right?
I've been to some basketball games my niece played in Milwaukee in the metal detectors.
But Rick's absolutely
I always
right.
had that choice to just not steer.
Right.
So
I guess my question is if these districts are doing this, or these schools, because it looks like a school in this situation, are they doing it under the advice of counsel, but it hasn't been challenged? If it's been challenged and has been held up, I think I'm more comfortable than if they're doing it, which is fine. They can do it, even if it hasn't been challenged. They can do it. But if it hasn't been challenged, then I think I'd be a little more concerned about us being on the front line of doing something that may end up being the challenge.
I'll get the case, but I'm fairly confident that it has been challenged because it's specific to that it has to be a hit before they can search, and it's not just anything in the room and that kind of thing. And I can certainly.
Yeah, I think I'm more comfortable
sure,
there too,
absolutely.
especially because when things have been challenged, especially as of late, the losing party ends up paying legal bills of the aggrieved party. So
this is an interesting discussion because from what Lisa's comments on the drug testing policy.
Right.
Your comments on the drug testing policy. This is. Again, it's really unfortunate the schools have to be so involved with all of this testing and all the elements of trying to stay drug free. I wish more focus was placed elsewhere as well. But then I also wonder too, how do the parents get the visibility into the schools? Certainly, I'm not looking to violate our U.S. Constitution and are even recommending that we write a policy to challenge it. But I think all the parents, I myself and everyone wants is just, if my kid's doing something in school, I want to know. I don't want it hidden. I don't want to tiptoe around it. I don't want to. If that's all we're doing is tiptoeing around this, and we're not giving the parents the information they need, what's the point of all the policies? At some point, again, I go back to, the focus really, that's fine, we're doing it, and if it gives the student the choice to, hey, look, I'm not doing this because the dogs may come, or I'm not doing this because I may have to pee in a bottle. But at some point, the focus needs to reshift to where it can work the most, and that's in the home and other parts. So I'm starting to see the pattern here where it's difficult for a school to implement policies, to help parents, and stay within our Constitution, not spend millions of dollars fighting legal battles.
Well, and we don't want to turn this into a police state. I understand that, and your point about having it, this should be coming from home, I would agree with too. And by and large, most of our district is on the same page you're at. What we're trying to limit is the 5 to 10% of homes that aren't caring and cross-contaminating all the hard work we've done as parents to distract and bring our students down a path that we don't want them to be, because that path can be changed so quickly. So
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is information too. I mean, obviously, if somebody's busted, that's probably information that isn't public record. But yet that's information parents in general would like to know, because, well, you're...
Kids don't know in a flash.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Right, but so,
but
but this is where the parents, that's one of the greatest weapons a parent has, is that information on who your kids are hanging out with, who their friendship circles are. And I don't know, obviously, and I'm not advocating that we publish a list of everyone who's bad and everyone who's done this. We do such a great job of keeping all of this secret and private that they're really, it's hard for parents to, it's just removing an element that parents could use to effectively say, look, you shouldn't be hanging around with Johnny or Susie because look at what they're doing. So I'm finding out it's very difficult with all of this testing and all of the tiptoeing that we have to do around our own Constitution to really give parents the information that they're looking for in the schools. Yeah, it's just a realization I'm coming to. So,
Kelly, those schools that have the policy, so do you know when they do their canine searches, is it that they're entering classrooms on a day when they're also doing the locker searches, or is that a separate search time?
Separate. So, for instance, we would be doing canine searches the way we've done them, and then in addition, we would have a few dates that we would, and we've actually have this calendared at this point with law enforcement, so that we just get a jump on it because we're increasing the number of searches necessary. But those dates would be separate because the dogs would.
And how many classrooms do the officers typically take the canines into? Or don't we want to know that?
Don't know.
Okay. How long are the classes out while this is going on?
Well, they say, the policy is as brief as possible. That they, that it would be a quick survey, and then the dog would exit, and the students would be escorted back in.
What if the student refuses to leave their belongings?
The refusal would probably be looked at as reasonable suspicion, and then they would be brought to the office, and then there would likely be a search at that point. But I can check whether or not that would be a reasonable.
And are we asking our teachers to do that?
No.
They would be with the students, I assume.
Yes. They would leave the room with the student.
No, what I'm
Are they
asking
leaving their
is,
belongings?
are the teachers announcing this, and it's their responsibility to make sure Johnny doesn't pick up his backpack on the way out the door?
No, administrators would come in. It's all administration and law enforcement.
And do we know for the schools that have been doing this, they had positives on their classrooms with the searches?
Can follow up with them on that.
Okay.
On the point of if the student refuses, are the parents notified?
If it ends up in any sort of search, parents are notified. So if we have...
When? 24 hours or at that point? Prior to the search?
Prior or after?
Well, the policy would say we would try to contact the parent beforehand, but often that doesn't happen.
Okay.
And it would depend on how urgent we have to search. So in this case, it wouldn't necessarily be urgent.
Because that's not bad. I mean, one of the things too that helps is contacting the parents is marketing. I mean, you're actually, if we're going to do these searches and we're going to create these drug-free or these policies and practices, trying to, I mean, the drug testing the dogs. I mean, the more parents are contacted, that's proof that, hey, I mean, there's an impact there, and we're doing it. And it can hit the papers all at once, but it's still impact that we're doing it. Half the battle is trying to get people to understand the gravity and the amount of time I'm learning the school is dedicating toward a drug-free environment. And a lot of the forums that I attended, we all have, that message isn't there. Parents don't have that feeling that, at least from what I've heard, that any of this is happening, or at least they're not paying attention to it. So that's a concern I only had, was that I think the school is doing a lot. It's just I'm not so sure that my message is getting out there.
So if the student refuses to leave their belongings behind, that gives us the right to search it.
That's the question. Is that reasonable suspicion at that point? Yeah. So.
And I mean, like, okay, so I'm just picturing, right? You're in U.S. government class, and you just had this great constitutional discussion with an AP teacher, and the canine search happens, right? Wouldn't this be terrific? And a student says, no, on my constitutional grounds, I am not allowing you to search my purse. Because that guy over there has this wallet in his pocket and is walking out the door. And this is where I keep my personal belongings, so forget it. Query.
And the word that's used is asked, so it's not required.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah. But I will follow up on the reasonable suspicion if that would be.
And I would imagine we're going to have another discussion on this.
Absolutely.
This is good. This is good.
Anything else that you need to get information on before the second reading?
And feel free to email me other questions that might come up.
I don't have those kind of questions about the textbooks.
But I do.
Who needs them?
Moving on. Under discussion items, item 7D, policy number 2510, and administrative guidelines adoption of textbooks, first reading.
Dawn's here to help walk us through the documents.
And Lisa, I'm ready for whatever questions you have. So there's 5 documents that were posted in here, and I want to acknowledge Lisa, who's not here tonight, that really is leading these revisions and a lot of this work. So as she's taking over the CPC committee, the Curriculum Planning Committee. But 2510 is the textbook adoption. And that would replace policy 361, which is our learning resources. So the first document is the adoption policy itself, and I'll speak to each one of these just briefly. And then the second one is the guidelines. Then there is an evaluation rubric. There is then finally a process for textbooks that are going through a pilot and textbooks that are not going through a pilot. So just you have the overview there. The textbook policy itself is basically 99% the Neola policy as they have proposed it. There was just a minor tweak around the criteria there for the board would weigh its decisions based on the recommendations related to those 7 items. If you take a look at those are very closely aligned to what we had in the past. So any questions about the policy in general, or should I just continue on with the docs? Okay. The second document there, the administrative guidelines, so this gets into more specifics about how the policy would be carried out. Again, this one is more of a blending of our Mnsd Norway process and the Neola policy. So the letters A through M, which is the criteria for selecting resources, is aligned to our Mnsd Norway textbook adoption evaluation rubric, which is the third article or artifact here in your handouts there. So the rubric there provides an overview that would be consistent across review of all textbooks for any area. And the rubric offers, information for us to look at regarding the work the students will be doing, how the textbook develops, the concepts within the course. And I won't go through every bullet there, but it looks at skill development, accessibility, the digital aspect, how does it provide assessment, and on and on. And each of these would be reviewed by a team, which then takes me to...
If there's, under the rubric, part 2, where it says work students do engaging prior knowledge?
Yes.
See that second bullet, build on previous learned skills across, are there words missing? Across what?
Build on previously learned skills across. Yes.
Okay.
It's cut off because of the bottom of the cell.
It just
That's what I
up?
think. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're just not seeing it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the intent there would be that you're building on previously learned skills, either
across grade level,
right, across the grade level, or across course, units of study across the course. Yeah. In the end, what happens is this rubric serves as a tool to really have a thorough review of the resource, and it provides a guide for if it's a pilot or if it's a non-pilot, either way, for the teachers and the curriculum planning committee team members to really have, again, that in-depth look at all aspects of the textbook.
Did we have something like this before?
We did.
Okay.
So, for example, we just went through the math adoptions, elementary and then now middle, well, and some high school as well. But there was a rubric that we used through that process. This is a revised version of that. It incorporates probably even more.
It looks incredibly thorough.
So it's the combination of pulling from multiple resources. And again, I want to give Lisa credit on that one. But much of what's in here is from our current rubric as well. But yeah, so it's a revision, or it's really a new one. Any additional questions on the rubric? Okay, then just a brief overview. The last two documents outline the process. And so this is really aligned to the CPC process. The adjustment here for the textbooks going through a pilot, we want to set the system up to have a fall pilot each time that we're piloting a new resource, so that it allows time for that fall implementation of the pilot, time to analyze results of the pilot, and then make spring recommendations to the board. And so in order to allow that to happen, it actually begins a year and a half prior to the implementation or the proposed implementation of the resource. So January, a year and a half prior, is when we would begin our look. It would still go to the CPC for approval and then come to the board, the Educational Services Committee and the board for approval after that extensive process. Much of the paperwork and the processes that are incorporated in this timeline have now been made electronic and accessible on the website just for ease. And then the last one is if there is no pilot, it would just simply be the year prior, beginning to investigate resources with preparing a proposal to the CPC and then a proposal to Ed Services and the board. So, questions?
Very thorough.
The only thing I'll add, just for the good of the board, is when I was still on the CPC, Lisa did a really nice job, as did Dawn, of engaging with the teachers to make sure that the dates made sense for everybody. So I know some dates ended up, as the discussions occurred, moving a little bit to again make sure everybody could hit those targets to get it to the board in time. Yeah, so it was really great work by both Dawn and Lisa.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. So that'll come back for second reading on August 4th and move forward. Okay. Thank you very much.
Moving on, information follow-up. Can you handle? You set the agenda, I guess.
I was going to mention the superintendent report, but this would be just fine. Interestingly enough, I just received a letter today from WASB from John Ashley regarding board docs, and they've actually kind of partnered with board docs, and moving forward, if we continue with board docs, we will get a reduced annual fee for that. I don't even know if you know that. So it's just kind of an interesting component that
Wait until Dean's here to know that.
we have adopted that or partnered with board docs.
That's right.
So interesting.
Maybe a 50% discount.
Not quite that much. Not quite that much.
Work it, Tony. Work it.
And actually, one other item that I probably should have brought up in the President's report, WAP has a program to recognize local area businesses that have had an impact on our systems. I asked Kelly to gather information on Impro. Impro's been an outstanding partner to our district throughout the years, the whole time I've been here. So I'm in the process of gathering that information and submitting the application for the recognition. Just want to give you a heads up. I will probably ask for having a resolution before we would vote on it and approve at the same time. That'll be coming forward relatively shortly. And then the other information follow-up is if you could maybe put together some dates to discuss Eric's request for the
co-curricular code?
Yes, the code. The review of the code from co-curricular code. Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 We are adjourned at 9:07.